Mm-hmm. Just trying to. Super apologies to all who were expecting to find me here. I launched myself live via my own web or my own Facebook page. Apologies. So for those of you that were there with me, Trisha, Andy, and Kathy, and Jan Burrs, thank you so much for finding me there. I apologize to Dean and Bobbin. Hello, welcome. Hopefully everybody else will find their way over here. And we'll start over. Eric Coons, hello, good evening. Hi guys. Let's start this fresh, and Kathy, and Trisha, and Andy, if you'll bear with us, we'll kind of run through this again. But my super apologies again. I just got a little note from Julie saying, you're on the wrong page. So apologies for those of you that were expecting to see me here 17 minutes ago. This will change up the game a little bit in that the wine usually changes around 20 minutes, so I've got 4 or 5 minutes to do that. Jan with Leslie, hello. Jan Burst, I hope you join us back in. Eric, I had mentioned too that you were joining us for the first time tonight, which is awesome. Yes, phase 2, thank you, Chris. Johnny, I'm glad to see you, and Kristen, I saw you pop in earlier today. I was with another guest, and so I didn't get a chance to say hi. Well, Bobby, you are special, it's for sure. So everybody should feel special. As I said to those that I was talking to for 15 minutes without the rest of you, I feel pretty special to be back doing this. I feel a little bit nervous this evening, as though I'm unsure about kind of getting through the process and not having done it with all of you for so long. But now that you're here, I think we'll be just fine. So Robert Haynes, hello. I'm sorry. Yes, I am glad I made it too. And Melanie, good evening. Okay, this wine, we can dive in then. So for those of you that are joining us, although I think everyone that I've at least seen comment so far has already been part of this, with the exception of Eric. Eric, this is the Coons family. This is a little sheet that make sure you get if you don't have. But this is a tasting format sheet that just prompts us to go through first and foremost the visual of the wine, and then the aroma of the wine. So we work with our eyes and our nose first, and then head to our palate, where we begin to look for a few things: fruit, earth, and wood. And then we venture through, after the taste, the first taste, to assess the taste of the wine vis-a-vis the difference between taste and flavor. Taste would be, is it sour or sweet, essentially? Is there any bitterness? The taste that you perceive on your tongue. And then move into the olfactory sense to get flavor profile, with a hope that it will indicate a little bit of where we're talking about from the world of wine, from a regional perspective, and then also a little prompt, obviously, from the varietal or varietals that are in here. Mark, good to see you too. Thank you. Candy, you're 100%. It is red. So, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, one of the beautiful things about blind tasting, and the thing that I talk about first and foremost when someone says to me, it's impossible to blind taste. How would I ever get to the point where I would be good enough to do that? Well, right off the bat, there's a whole bunch you can do with just your eyes that already leads you down a path more concretely than you might have expected. And so by saying, in a sort of tongue-in-cheek, joking fashion, we think it's a red, you are effectively also saying no rosé and no white. So all those varietals and all those potential wines are out the window at the moment, and that leaves half the world of wine, roughly speaking, right? And when you look a little closer, are there any bubbles in here? No. So it's not sparkling. So it's not a sparkling wine, it's a still red wine, which helps you there further. And as we swirl this wine a little bit, and Candy and Trish and Kathy, Trisha and Andy, bear with me here as we kind of run through this again. Jan, I know you kind of picked up a little bit too as we were headed into that moment. Brian Lee, you might have been watching along too. So for those of you that were already with me on my last go around, let's do this again. As you visually look at this, you see a formation of wine around the edge, the rim, as you swirl it. And that rim forms kind of tiers as they cry their way down, and then legs that form and stay. And do those tiers form quickly? And do they move slowly or fast? And then do the legs that form as a result of that tier dropping stay? And those questions help you to understand whether or not this wine has a greater viscosity, which would come from either sugar or higher alcohol, which then would be derived from principally a warmer climate, a warmer vintage, and a cooler climate, and give you that sense of things. And these are tiers that form relatively slow and then move relatively quick and hang out for a minute. For me, they are a little bit of an indication that there's a higher alcohol here. So that tells you that this is a red wine, rubyish in character with maybe a little higher alcohol. And when you smell the wine, then do you smell any fault? And I don't think any of us did previously. And so for those of you that are already working on descriptors for the aroma, kudos. It doesn't have any real faults on the nose, but candy's picking up little pencil shavings and cedar. So indications of oak aging. Cedar and things like pencil shavings would be a woody note. And in the acronym FEW, a few things that we're looking for, the wood part, fruit, earth, wood, that's an indication of wood. So pencil shavings, cedar, things like that would indicate oak. Cedar in particular would be an indication of French oak, more than American oak, for example. French oak doesn't necessarily tell us that this is a New World or an Old World wine, but principally speaking, you're talking about more Old World wines that would have this. Contrary to that point, if we were smelling American oak, kind of dill and coconut and some bourbon-y kind of qualities, we might be thinking about American oak, and that could absolutely come from, say, Rioja in Spain, which is a real tell. And so anything that I say sort of in a broad generalization always has exceptions, but those broad generalizations help you to create a profile that gets you closer to understanding what's in the glass. And some of those times, sometimes you need to throw that right out the window. But all right. Got a little bitter quality, a little wood, and some cedar flavor. So, Candy, you're already in the tasting. Dry leaves coming from Jan. Awesome. This nose is kind of, it's not super pronounced or expressive. It doesn't have a whole bunch going on. It's more in the spice category, more in the wood category, less about kind of fruit on the nose. And on the palate, sort of same thing, right? Some warm spices, pumpkin spices, ginger snaps. Very cool. Good descriptors, Robert. And tartness. There's a tartness. So when we say tart, we're referring more specifically to fruit and the character of that fruit. But then there's probably also an accompanying acidity that helps to emphasize that tartness, right? So you could have tartness and sweetness. You can have tart lime, for example, and Riesling that has sugar in it that's residual. So it's not that tart means acidity. So we have to differentiate the two. Library leather, what a comment. And yeah, Bobby's picking up the leather too. Nice, subtle library leather. So a comment like library leather would generally lead us toward the old world more than the new world, generally. So there are indications of wines that present leathery notes from the new world for sure, but in terms of building an overarching profile, if this is prototypical for the varietal or varietals that it is, it's fair to say I think we're skewing from the tart side of the fruit, cooler climate potential, cool climate, maybe warm vintage though, because I want to talk about the heat in a second. And then that leathery note, along with some of that woody quality that's more European or French oak in focus, we're headed toward the old world. Let's go back to taste. Where is the acidity on this? Where is the tannin? Is it light, medium, or robust in body? Kristen, also a tremendous, you guys are great descriptors. The leather strings on a baseball glove. I think I can see you just in the outfield, like just chewing on that glove, waiting for a ball to come your way, right? This wine's opened up a bit, but I think it's medium. I think it's a medium weight wine, medium plus potentially. Bobby, I can see you, or Jan, you're kind of saying the same thing. But I think it's what Dean's keying into next here, that the acidity is a little high and the tannins a little bit high, and they're kind of working with each other. I wouldn't say a high tannin, but a medium plus, maybe medium solid. That makes the wine feel a little bit rounder than I think it actually is, because I think the fruit and the actual stuffing of the wine isn't as much as the structure of the wine. So if you think about this wine in the context of the tannin being sort of a bone structure, it has all the bones, but then there's not as much flesh on the outside of those bones. Some of that is really just tannin, kind of a wool sweater over that flesh. Definitely watering on the tongue. There's definitely acidity here. Sorry, Kristen. Johnny was talking about the baseball glove. Well, I can imagine him doing the same thing too. So, yep, Dean, 100% correct. The lack of rim variation, we didn't talk a little bit about that. So when you're looking at the wine too and you tilt it and then look just at the rim around the outside versus what's in the center, is there a variation in color from the center to the rim? Does it get kind of orangish, brownish, tawnied? And that would be an indication of age. If you see a little bit of a wateriness at the outside rim too, that's also an indication of potentially higher alcohol. And this wine definitely has that. No real variation from the center to the outside. It does get lighter because the wine gets less, right? There's less of it than on this particular glass because it has a dip there. But it hasn't really changed color per se. So I would say yes, but definitely a younger wine with youthful tannins. Get a little pepper quality, Candy, which is a great note because pepper can take you to, in particular, Syrah. It's rounding out a little bit, isn't it? But the tannins are coming with it every step. It's like the tannins are 2 steps ahead of the fruit as it starts to round out a little bit. It's not all tart cherry, but it's still quite tart in the fruit expression. So, are we thinking about a place in the New World or the Old World? I kind of have already indicated that I think I'm headed to the Old World. And as we think about this further, are we thinking about a wine that is a single varietal or one that is multiple varietals? And what varietal should we consider based on the profile? Tart reddish fruit, medium body, medium plus body perhaps, medium plus tannin, medium plus acidity, Old World in orientation. So is this a wine that we would say is Pinot Noir, for example? Is this a wine that we would say is Cabernet Sauvignon, for example? Probably not. I think we're kind of giving ourselves a middle of the road situation, and we're all kind of in agreement that this is Old World. So Chris Shirley's back in here with us. Great. Hi, Chris. I get to see you twice. I get to see you once. You see me twice in one day. I ran into Chris at the gym today. Jan's playing the bottle game as opposed to the blind wine tasting game, and it's an approved method pioneered by our Chris. Yes, the bottle shape is heavy, maybe Spanish. I think that's fair. I think the bottle shape too, just to talk about bottle shape for a second, what you're not supposed to do in the blind tasting world, right? You're not supposed to know, that's why you're wrapping it. But the bottle shape can tell you quite a bit too. And Eric, I like exactly where you're heading. And I think it takes us potentially to Spain and into southern France. But Eric's point is GSM, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. But this sloped bottle is something you would find in the Rhone. It's something you find, it's a so-called kind of Burgundy bottle with a sloped shoulder as opposed to a Bordeaux bottle, which has a higher side shoulder. Traditionally, that would be used because the grapes that were put in that bottle would need to be decanted because they would have sediment as they age for a long period of time. This wine has tannin and would absolutely throw off sediment over time. However, just a different bottle shape. Pinot Noir wouldn't throw off as much sediment over time, but there you go. Dean, you're saying not fruity enough for Grenache or Garnacha. Maybe something Italian or Spanish like Tempranillo or Montepulciano. Cool, very cool. So I think I understand the Grenache comment, not enough there. I could get in behind some Syrah element. That's where I was thinking, kind of a Syrah type blend, maybe. I passed up a comment I just saw here from Bobby about Nebbiolo, and I think that's an important comment. Nebbiolo, there's tannin here, right? And tartness, tart cherry. Nebbiolo is worthy of consideration for sure. So is Dolcetto, so a varietal that you'd find in Italy, and so is Montepulciano. I think we'd get a little bit more ripeness from Montepulciano. You know, there's variation certainly, but that tannin structure isn't huge enough, or is it, I should say, I meant to ask that as a question. Is it big enough? Is it persistent and kind of encompassing to be Nebbiolo? I don't think so. Nebbiolo has this element of just being like, how did I tasted Nebbiolo today earlier with a purveyor, and I described to myself, I wrote myself a note of like, it was the wine itself wrapped in a screen, and the screen had micro holes in it, so it was porous, and the tannin let the wine through, but wrapped the entire wine. So there was no experience with the wine that wasn't part, at least, tannin, but there was wine that came through it. And this has sort of the first half of the experience where the tannin is just sort of hanging low, and then it comes up and it finishes. So stronger on the tannic side of things than not. But maybe we're talking about Spain, huh? But Spain, okay, Spain, let's talk about Spain in the context, generally speaking, when we go to Spain, it's because it's a little bit riper. And this has that ripeness in terms of, there's a heat on the back of the palate, right? Are you picking up on some of that too? My first taste or so, and a number of, at least one or two of you noted that there was a little warmth on this particular wine. It's not super fruity, and it is peppery. Candy, I agree. It's tart fruit. So if we were in Spain, with this tannin level, like if we were in Priorat, for example, would we be talking about Garnacha and Carignana? Carignana, maybe. Interesting, right? A little bit tartar. Maybe this is a wine that has a little bit of a blend there. Maybe this is Garnacha with a little bit of Syrah. I like that potential. It's got a little medicinal element that's kind of, I think, being translated by a little higher alcohol, carrying a touch of that fruit and that herbal quality. Going back to Tempranillo. So Tempranillo, I think I would get a little bit more richness from fruit, a little bit more darkness potentially in that fruit too. Although there's a great range of Tempranillo, and so Tempranillo is almost a little bit like Chenin Blanc in that you have a wide spectrum to work with, and a lot of different places that play with it. South American, Jan, you've got at least one supporter liking your idea of South American. So thinking about like Carmenere, something a little bit lighter. I don't think it's Cabernet. It's not presenting kind of Cabernet quality. Syrah from South America, maybe, with that peppery note. Chris, if it was a blend, what kind of blend? Are you getting behind sort of Eric's GSM blend? French? Should we be thinking about France and maybe something like Crozes Hermitage, Syrah from France? Candy, I don't think Rioja. Personally, I mean, the Tempranillo element, I don't know. A tannin is just, it's very young, and most Rioja has a little bit more resolved tannin. That's not to say that they don't have it, but Spanish heat. Yeah, I can get behind some of that Spanish heat, but I'm not getting the fruit that goes with it. So it's like Spanish heat with elevation. And so that takes me to a higher placed, I'm pausing because the Rioja with a higher, like the Alto Rioja kind of spectrum of maybe this is that, like where you're talking about higher elevation in a warm place so that you get the tartness, that you get the brightness, you get reddish fruit, maybe a little medicinal elements because of mountainside or higher elevation, and then you get heat because it just gets warm there. Or they can get full ripeness. Maybe they pick a little early. Margie's going on with, on board rather, excuse me, with the GSM suggestion. Jan Chile, yeah, I mean, there's coastal potential, like that same kind of discussion. You know, Aconcagua, we're up high elevation, but getting sunshine ripeness for the fruit, so the fruit gets have a potentially high alcohol. I mean, I think we're at 14%, and I like that 14% to go with Rioja. I like that to go with, so that's Tempranillo. But I'm thinking it's not like Center Rioja. And Crianza, yeah, not Reserva. Thank you, Dean. Like, it's not, this is not a concentrated Rioja. Like, this is not one that's been aged extra long. It does have a woody note, and we picked up on that right in the beginning. So there's some arguments. I think I dismissed Rioja fast. I like the idea of this being potentially a Rhone too, although I think same situation. I have to go Northern Rhone, so I'd have to go sort of like Gros Hermitage, and she would have had we got a good deal on this at $30 if we're doing Gros Hermitage, based on the ones I've tasted recently. So I don't think this is something like Priorat, for example. I think it would be a little bit richer, deeper, darker fruit, and I kind of like the wood element coming from Rioja and the tartness, if we classify this as Dean has, sort of at the entry level, if you will, at the Crianza level, and not like the heart of Rioja, like higher elevation, kind of outside the outskirts, just like the point about Gros Hermitage. So Hermitage is the center point and the Northern Rhone of this beautiful Syrah, and then it's the core of the hill that's got the best exposition to the sun, and then the Gros Hermitage is the area around it, and you get less concentration. You get some fruit that's riper, some fruit that's a little bit more tart. And so I agree with the earlier note that I don't think we're in Italy, but so I think we're bouncing back and forth between Spain and France. At least I am. Most of you, well, some are in South America, are in Spain. So if most of you are in Spain, GSM side of things, or you're thinking about Tempranillo, excuse me, from Rioja, and I got sidetracked there just kind of smelling it. And then Chris's note, yeah, San Josef, good call there too, Chris, right? So something like San Josef, Northern Rhone, Syrah, or Rioja Alta for sure. That's where I'm thinking. Humilla, Dean, I don't know. I mean, the Humillas I've had are rustic and meaty and deep dark fruit. That's not to say that I've tried enough from Humilla to have a full grasp on that, but I like the Rioja Alta more because the Humilla seems to have more fruit generally and less of that wood expression, whereas in Rioja you just pick up more wood. So San Josef, if I'm going to have to kind of dwindle this down and pick something, and that's the name of the game, I have to, I'm going to go I think I'm more in Spain too. Kristen and Johnny are 95% in Spain and 5% Rhone. Are you creating a special cuvee with that? As in a little bit of Rhone fruit splashed into a little bit of Spanish fruit, or you just can't quite fully decide that it's Spain? Chateauneuf de Pape, Margie, I don't think so. I think we would get more concentration and more richness. And then unfairly also, I don't think we would get Chateauneuf de Pape at this price, but a GSM blend from Vacuras or from Gigondas, or even just a Côte du Rhône, for example, with the Chateauneuf de Pape grape lineup is something that's possible. Chris, you're going Carignan and Garnacha. That's absolutely respectable in terms of this guess. Um, Candy, you're saying, or Kevin is saying 2020 Spanish Rioja. Okay, I'm gonna go with, yeah, like a 19. I won't twist your arms hard enough to make you go round. I think I'm gonna go. I think you guys swayed me, and this has happened before. And you can always replay these videos to the point where like my head goes, oh, because somebody says something and then two or three things click, and that's where tasting with you guys is really helpful. The wood, the crianza comment, the kind of higher elevation element kind of clicked for me, and I think Rioja Alta is a better guess than, while we are getting some of that pepperiness, this isn't presenting with any kind of real meatiness to me that I would pick up a little bit on the Syrah side of things, and so I'm the San Josef, the Cruz Hermitage, something like that, I think I can put aside. So yeah, I'm gonna go Spain. Rioja, Crianza kind of level, or Rioja Alta, just kind of fun, easygoing. 2020 is a good guess. 2019, it's 2 to 4 years old. It's young, right? It's not an aged wine. It's not 3 to 5, 3 to 6, 4 to 6 years age. It has a bit more going on there in the youthful camp with that tannin profile and everything else. So, all right, I think I'm good. 2019 Rioja Alta, thanks to you guys, and yeah, I'm gonna stay there. Let's see. Yeah, it's a good bet for Spain at 30. So playing the bottle game, playing the dollar game, as opposed to the wine game, or with the wine game, $30 gets you to Spain pretty comfortably. And we are looking at, well, look at that, guys. We're looking at Tempranillo, Garnacha, and Graciano. 14.1, so 14.1% alcohol. And this is Rioja Alavesa, so a little bit like we were talking about. This is an interesting wine. 2018, so it's got a little bit more age than we were expecting. Front label says 13.5, back label says 14.1. We're going with the back label plus some, perhaps. This is a wine that had a little less fruit than I would have expected. So if you told me we were tasting Rio, I would have expected a touch more fruit. From what I understand, this is definitely not kind of core. I remember looking this up. We had a little bit of this on the wine list for a while. I think she pulled that off. So this is a wine that it's in the outskirts. I think has a little more flat laying soil, mixed kind of deeper, richer soil, but it's presenting cooler and presenting cooler with weight. So it's interesting. I think the fruit maybe not necessarily came to full ripeness because we didn't get that richness of fruit. Chris, your label is the same front and back. Oh, that's neat. This is a little bit different. You can see maybe there a touch different, and then front says 13.5. So somebody got that through. That might have been back when they were charging a little bit more based on alcohol percentage, right? So they decided to change it. But very cool, very fun to do this again. As I put in the note for the posting here, we will be doing this the third Thursday of every month. And so we've got a little bit of time in between to kind of practice and to taste. You can hop by at any point because we have the next couple of months worth of wines here and available. So if you're visiting us at any point and want to pick up a couple of months in advance worth of wines just to have them in case you don't make your way back out, you're certainly welcome to. I think that's about it from me at this point. Thank you all so much for coming back and for playing again and for encouraging me to do this again. I got a lot of wonderful feedback from a number of you over the past couple of weeks, months, saying that we should get back to it. And that was the intention all along. I just wanted to make sure we could do it again. We needed a little bit of time in between. So a number of you have had different labels. And Eric, yes, it's funny. Yours says GSM. So that's a good way to play, for sure. On your first outing, you've already figured it out. This is how you play. When your initial conclusion and then your final conclusion is GSM, you just find GSM on the label, right? So I think it's a GGT or a TGG. So anyway, fun and good times. Thank you guys. Once a month is very doable for me, and hopefully it will be for you guys too. Thanks, Kristen, for noting that. Yep. Looking forward to the next 3 months, and we'll keep it going. So the third Thursday of each month should work out, and dates are on the bottles as you buy them. And for those of you that are brand new, i.e. Eric, the label will also say please chill if it's a white. And so look out for that as you have the bottles and chill them. A number of folks decide to decant and kind of open the wines early. That's up to you. I will open them as a matter of course about 5 minutes or so right before I begin, so I am with those of you that just open it as we start. So if you're ahead of us, no problem, and you can tell us about how the wine is evolving. So cheers, everybody. Enjoy your weeks. Hope to see some of you soon, and if not, I'll see you again on Thursday, I believe the 17th. Cheers, have a great time. Thanks.